so confused. You feel like you're more fucked up than the lies on the evening news. Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all as friends. And if you want, we can hug and kiss and make up for the party ends. Agree or disagree, stop unfriend me. 'Cause I'm everything you want, damn sure what you need. I won't tell no lies, back up on the facts with truth. And if you can't get down with that, you must be somebody's stuff.
Good morning, Don't Unfriend Me Nation. What are we?
Hi, Matthew. It's Judge Janine, and I wanted to congratulate you on the Don't Unfriend Me show at the Dumb Show. I was thinking about that whole thing the other day when I thought it was right after Donald Trump was elected that everybody on the left started unfriending anyone on the right. So I'm glad you're calling them out. We've got a great name for the show, and I hope that you're true to the values, conservative values, Republican values, and that you call those people out. I think it's great, and I know you've got 135,000 followers. I hope you get a lot more, and just keep the faith, keep fighting. I think we may get America back, but in the meantime, we've got a steep hill to climb, and you're one of the fighters, one of the patriots. So thank you for what you're doing.
Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. We've got everybody in the house tonight. Mike, Amy, Leroy, and Olivia. Welcome, everybody.
Rumble's not working. Pass on the word.
Yeah, Rumble's not working. It has nothing to do with us.
Rumble's down.
Yes, Rumble's down.
Rumble's down. It's not us. I got to test this to see if this works. Here, watch this. Hands free. Here we go. Ready? Nice.
Ooh.
And back to main scene. Okay. So I got foot. Well, it's something you couldn't use. I got foot pedals.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sorry.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, they work for me though, Mike, which is great. We could get you hand pedals, but that would be the same thing as a mouse. So I'm sorry, it's not going to work. I thought
so inclusive here on this show.
I thought that's what we're all about, diversity. Look at all the diversity we've got here. We've got a bunch of white people. Go figure.
Yeah.
Now I am
I'm
White women at.
So
to be fair, I am hung like a black man. So it's fair.
Apparently we lie too.
Well, we all know you don't run like a black man. So
Oh no.
so
I run like a penguin.
let's see. We've got white. We've got women. We've got a
Penguins
Mexican.
have knees, though,
We've got a
right?
Marine. So we're all about equality here. We're set.
Foot
Well,
You guys are ruthless.
He's, dude, you kidding me? If you don't listen, you know the drill. Military's in the house, and if you're,
And I was gonna say we should omit all of like the Lieutenant Dan jokes and like what's your favorite part of the turkey jokes. But man, they
see this is the Navy come out in you, and it's not acceptable, and you should bring it all you want. And all I want to know is where's my ice cream?
Certain parts of the turkey.
Amy and I were talking about ice
what,
cream.
like the breasts? Yeah. I don't understand. What do you mean? The wings? I don't get it. The thorax? I don't understand.
The thorax.
Yeah. The thorax.
Oh.
Actually, if you want a funny story about that, my brother actually got shot in the butt, and I lost my leg. So we just need Jenny and Bubba, and we can recreate some things.
That's right. You need a shallow woman who uses forest for her own emotional turpitudes, and whenever her life gets hard, she somehow finds her way back to destroying Forrest Gump's life.
Yeah,
I'm surprised people haven't made a Forrest Trump, like the intro where he's running. I'm running, Lieutenant Dan, and put Donald Trump's head on everything and run, Trump,
something
run.
you should make.
I should make it. I think I'm going to do it now.
Brilliant. I love it.
I think I'm going to do it. Everyone, I've got allergies, so this is what happens. Olivia lays out my pills, And I take my vitamins, I take my lifting stuff, and my steroids and all that shit. So all of a sudden, man, it's like 4 days ago. Like, understand this: for a week to 2 weeks, every time this year, right here, right now, this is when we thought I got COVID. If you guys remember, and that's like in November, and I was like, I had it before it was released in the United States because it was allergies. And you guys remember, even on the show during this time, I go down like crazy, always, every year. So
Is that true,
Olivia?
Olivia?
Yes.
Well, she knows. She'll remember now. She won't remember next year either. So as I have my allergy pill that I take, and it's not Claritin or whatever, Provasic. It's doctor prescribed allergy medication. So 3 days, man, I go down, and I'm talking, I go down. Throat, nose, headache, eyeballs are on fire, can't sleep. Nothing's working, miserable as shit. Every single freaking operation on my body hurts. So basically, nothing even close to Mike. Yes, we know, dude. Sorry. Mike's over here
Sounds
going
like the man flu. No offense.
Mike's sitting there going like this.
I do it
like,
too.
Mike's just going violent. No, but seriously. Anyway, all right. So I'm sympathy playing a little bit, and then. No joke. Third day into this, right? All the signs are there. Nobody else is sick in the house, right? So that should be the first sign. Olivia goes, "Hey, do you want your allergy medicine still?" And I'm like, "What do you mean still?" She goes, "I stopped it 3 days ago." And I'm like, "What? Why? Are you the type of person that just unplugs the electrical socket when somebody's on life support just to screw with them?"
Probably.
So I'm like,
Depends
"What do
on
you
the life
mean?"
insurance.
I'm like, Olivia, I'm three days. I've been dying here, and you didn't make the connection. She's like, "No, I didn't even think about it." I'm just like, you did completely played it off a loop. Forget it. So
The timer clock's not on.
that's what you worry about. See, and you're not going to remember next year because you just
and
are
it's
worried
hard
about
to get medication, so maybe she just didn't get it refilled because they were out.
Oh no, it's filled. That's good.
You hear?
Oh no, we got
to help
plenty.
you
I
out.
just didn't give it to you.
I just said, fuck him. That's why. I mean, come on, duh. I mean, So anyway, it's coming from all angles, folks. All right. Let's see. I got 1 hour and 50 minutes on the old clockaroo. Let's play it.
Perfect.
So as she's worried about the clock, she won't remember next year. You never told me that you get allergies during the better half of the year. By the way, the clock's not working again. That's what's next year's conversation. Just foreshadowing. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. Tonight, what are we doing? Well, a little bit different. We have a single topic. Why do we have a single topic? Because I think we all think it's important enough. Amy brought it up and wanted to talk about Derek Chauvin and Tucker and what's been going on with George Floyd and BLM. And I was like, "Amy, why do you want to talk about Derek Chauvin?" And she goes, "Well, I think he finally got the point." And I said, "Really?"
Ouch.
You got a point.
Didn't
We'll see if
happen,
you got
but
the
that'd
one.
be cool. I'm not that
Did I
clever.
Do I get a rim shot or anything? Too late.
There you go.
It's double rim shot takes away the first rim shot. So anyway, I want to apologize to Rumble people. You can go over and watch it on our website, thedumbshow.com. Click live. That's going to get a revamp, but you can see it's probably working a lot smoother right now, the website, considering it got updated. So go over there and then click on the live, and you can actually watch the show and stream from there. You also have a chat in there. Olivia's watching it.
Our site? No, I'm not. I
What?
didn't know I was supposed to.
You did-
I go to Rumble.
Do you hear? It's just like the allergy medicine. What do you mean you didn't know you were supposed to?
No, I didn't know I was
Yes, you
supposed
did.
to.
It's been open. Oh my God. The last 4 shows, you're like, "Oh my God, guys, start saying something on the website. I can't hear you on Spreely Media."
Well, I'm on Spreely.
Spreely Media is the website,
Oh,
sweetie.
God, I didn't know that. Oh, there we go.
God, I love you. You're so hot.
I know.
You're the sexiest woman on the planet. You're so good looking.
Wow.
Stop it.
Just hot.
Thought he normally just says that to me.
Well,
So you're my main competition, Leroy.
not really competition, just options. It's good to have options. Rude. All right. So here's what we're going to start with. Nasal rinse. It's not that. I don't have any congestion. 0. No congestion. It's all throat. And that's it. It's just my throat is like swollen, and my lymph nodes are swollen. But major congestion's gone. Since I've gotten my allergy medicine back in me for the last 2 days, I feel much better.
Have you tried the elderberry? Didn't I get you? Did you ever do that?
I've heard it.
Never
Yeah, and I
heard of
put it
that.
on my fucking pancakes, and it was the most horrendously horrible thing. I thought you said it was syrup. I'm not kidding.
it's
I
just
put
like-
it on my
like a
pancakes.
spoonful.
I know. And I
Sweet as
put
sweet.
the whole thing on my pancakes, and it was literally like somebody, it looked like I had a case of the green apple splatters, but they were purple instead, all over my pancakes.
Yeah.
Dude, they sell it
They
in
were the
gummies
worst.
too.
They were the worst
You gotta get the
pancakes I've
local
ever had.
elderberry.
Yeah.
I know, but you
It's
told
like
me it was
honey.
syrup. You told me it was syrup.
Well, it's called elderberry syrup, whatever you
It's a
guys
lie.
say here.
Is that like when we call like
It's like cough
milk
syrup.
We call soy juice milk? Is that the same thing?
It's like a cough.
You guys ever heard of anybody who ever refers to milk as milk? M-E-L-K.
Milk? Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
People from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Oh
Milk.
my God.
Dude, I gotta go milk the cow.
What the hell's wrong
You-
with you? What are you saying?
You betcha.
What the
I
hell's
gotta
a
go
ute?
milk. I gotta get what? 2 utes? We were talking.
The two you.
We were talking about that at the dinner
We
table
were.
2 nights ago about my cousin Vinny, and it was the Utah Utes were playing the Buffaloes, and my son's like, "What the hell's a Utes?" And Olivia's like, "Excuse me, you mean youths?" it's great. So, Michael, we have a little
Now, let me
celebration.
get the children. They want to do it.
I
Speaking of
sound a
your
lot
kids,
worse.
I've been I didn't watch the show Friday, so I don't know when you surprised Hayden, but I watched just the surprise earlier today, and I
Yeah.
literally cried. Like I was so happy for her. Like that just made my heart
All right, let's
so
watch it.
happy.
Taylor
Let's
Swift
watch
opened
it.
up her online site with merchandise, and then this comes out. So she wants this so bad, but it costs $70.
You shouldn't have to wait 364 days to do that. You should do that every single day.
Penny, would you join us live when we do it?
I'll go get it.
Sure.
Okay. So why don't you stay on and we're going to do it right now and we'll call her and we'll do it live for everyone to see.
I got you an early Christmas present. I'm going to give it to you now.
Aww.
I'm like, oh, getting choked up again.
Wow.
I bought it that night.
She is super excited. Aw.
I could.
I mean, it's Travis Kelsey's boyfriend. Obviously, she's getting excited.
Merry
Or
Christmas,
girlfriend,
Hayden.
whatever she is.
Oh, I still
That
like
was-
get a little like misty eyed. Like that is the sweetest thing. I love how happy she like is. Like
Amy's,
that's
Amy's
just,
crying now. Thanks, Liv.
I am
and Hayden.
literally am crying. Yeah.
Your
She's
dad
crying.
made a short of when you open your present.
And I
and
just
showed
everyone
it.
everyone's in tears except for Leroy. Leroy
Yeah.
made fun of it the whole time.
That was cold hard though.
He calls her Travis Kelsey's girlfriend.
So why don't you guys? All right. First of all, Olivia, do you want to set this up, Olivia,
Okay.
for Michael?
Okay. So I don't really.
Oh
You
my
showed it to me. I don't really remember.
A layup to her,
This is
and
why
it's like,
I don't
know what's
host the
happening.
show.
Hey, Mike. Not only am I not supposed to feel important about my allergy medicine, you're not supposed to feel important about what's about ready to happen to you. So Fox News came out and they made a comment about Target. We all remember the woke transgender and you know, genital cuff that came along with the bathing suit for children. So they came out with something new, a LGBTQ nutcracker, an ethnic,
Obviously, that's
and
fitting.
right, nutcracker, exactly, and then an ethnically diverse Santa Claus with one additional thing. First of all, there's nothing worse in the world, probably, than a black lesbian Jewish person. That person's just asking for it, right? They're asking for it. The
Where's
second
Whoopi?
is Mike's gift is the second worst possible scenario that you could have. Is being a magical entity with having a disability. So Ethan and Hayden, please, let's go deliver this to Michael and present this to him. Hey, let him do it. You got a sweater.
Hayden, check the fire.
It's Christmas, for God's sakes. It's a time of effing
Supposed to
giving.
have cheer. Oh man, here we go.
They're coming. I can hear
Why
them.
didn't they come up from behind so we could see the wonderful bouquet of the camera?
I don't know. Because they know to stay out of that
Jesus.
room.
All right, let's.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Michael, not only
Santa
is
Claus,
it a wheelchaired Santa
black
Claus, but
Santa
a black,
Claus in a wheelchair.
Black.
This
Black.
is
a black.
I think his camera
mean-
needs to be focused.
Yeah, would you
Yeah. Push it
Hayden?
towards the camera more.
ask Hayden if she'll focus? She knows how.
Hey, Hayden, can you press the little thing to focus it?
Hold
Like
on.
Christmas
even like-
Stephen Hawking.
They made. Oh, here we go.
Good.
That's good. They made the little legs on here all little atrophied, like a real person in a.
Can I be
in a
honest with
wheelchair.
you? So as we were sitting there, and I'm like, we need to make this thing completely realistic. What I said is we should go ahead and cut the legs off because it would look better. And Hayden,
Oh,
listen,
my God.
I was kidding. You know what Hayden did? She's like, great idea. Ran and went in the kitchen and grabbed the scissors. I'm like, honey, I was fucking kidding. You have some serious mental problems. She's like, Dad, we need to cut the legs off or Mike won't get it. I'm like, I'm pretty confident a black Santa in a wheelchair, he's going to get it.
You could cut the feet off and then sew it together right there. That would be. We can have some surgery.
You notice how we
Oh
didn't put his
my.
third leg on there because children were presenting the gifts. So I saved them that
Oh, yeah.
embarrassment. You better put that on the you better put that on the tree, Michael.
Yeah, you want to make sure
Yeah.
everyone knows he doesn't
Oh,
tuck
yes.
it in his sock.
Do you think Erica's going to allow that to happen?
Drive
We'll
around
find
like
out.
on your dashboard.
We'll find out when I get home.
All right. Well, I'm sure she's going to give me a riveting phone call. She's like, Matt, I think anything that I felt I owed you is now over. And Michael and you are no longer friends. So
I'm gonna have to go home immediately.
There is something saying taking this too far, Matt, and you've taken it too far. Listen, my wife did it, but did you notice how she bowed out and she didn't take any responsibility whatsoever for it? She's the one that went and got it.
Well, he was like, we should get this for Mike. And I said, okay. And I went and ordered it right then, done.
That is not true, Mike. That is not true.
Well, they've
at
got the
all.
LGBTQ nutcrackers. I got to go do video on that.
So the LGBTQ nutcracker, like you said, which the only thing better would be a LGBTQ anal probe, would probably be more fitting.
I'll go with you, Liv, but we should
Okay.
go to our neighboring state a little north of us because their first major, I guess, major town city, I'm sure they would have it there because they are extremely liberal in that place. So, which we
What,
love it there, by
Maryland?
the way.
Where are you talking?
Yeah.
In Maryland, there's so there's I don't even want to like mention it because we actually love going there. Like they have some of the greatest
What
restaurants.
do you think's going to happen? One of our people are going to bomb it or something? I mean, what are you afraid of?
No, I just don't want people to be like, oh, there's that loser girl who was like talking shit about our town, but like she comes here all the time.
I think that's
And I
inevitable.
fight all the time.
Because of the
I
anal
think-
probe?
I think we
Exactly.
should, right, because the conversation, let's see, we just gave a handicapped veteran who lost his legs for our country a black Santa Claus in a wheelchair. I'm sure this is going to save the integrity of your virtue.
Yeah.
The memes
No.
are writing themselves
You
right
know
now.
where it is.
Well, late now,
They already
yeah.
got you with a picture. White woman disgraces black Santa. It's already been
And
created.
a disabled veteran. You're gonna hit all of them.
Listen,
I don't
if you think
care.
he's magical,
Can I just get like I'll get religious for a second here and I'll just say this. I don't care about like Black Santa. Like if you want a Black Santa, that's fine. But Saint Nicholas is a real person and he was not black. So Santa's based off of Saint Nicholas. That's all I'm saying. I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me at all. Like be
These
whatever
are the
color
people-
you want. Be Santa.
these are the people who believe that men can get pregnant, and you're just frustrated over black Santa. Everything else is black. Listen, you know what did it for me is when they made John Clark from the Tom Clancy books black. I'm like, it makes no. Listen, if you've read one of the greatest series of books, Jack Ryan series, but before that, Without Remorse was about John Clark, and in there he meets a girl, young girl, whatever. She was a prostitute. He brings her back to health. He gets out of the SEAL teams. They fall in love. She goes back to grab her things. One of her ex-pimps kills her. And this guy's like, you know what? He's ready to eat a bullet. And instead, he's like, I'm going to wage war in Harlem against these pimps and drug dealers, and I'm going to kill all of them. And there's the book. And John Clark, after they murdered his girl, he's a white guy. And in the movies, he's white. And then all of a sudden, they give it to Brian B. Jordan or whatever, who is the worst actor ever. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, I think Michael B. Jordan's a piece of shit. He's a horrible actor. Horrible. I've heard he's great in Creed, but how great do you have to be standing there getting punched? But I despised him in Black Panther. He was horrible in ruined Fantastic Four. Because Johnny Storm, I mean, how many white roles is this guy going to take? He got Johnny Storm from Fantastic Four, killed John Clark. I mean, it's my understanding that the next role he's going to reprise is Gandhi. So it's not about race for me. It's about if you're going to, I don't want people doing it to my favorite black characters either. Like, can anyone imagine Django Unchained?
Right.
Could you imagine? You know what? Let's have Ryan Reynolds remake Django Unchained and play Django, a black slave who becomes Ryan Reynolds, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, what? How does that make any sense?
It would be like casting Michael Caine as Snowball. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. You know what? Or listen, or Mike playing Abe Lincoln.
Right.
He's got him from the knee up, but otherwise, no.
Oh.
See, I like the ornament.
I think Mike's a little
It makes
too,
me think of like Professor
short.
Charles Kwanzaa instead of Xavier.
Oh, that's right. He could play Chuck, Charles Xavier for the X-Men. But Mike looks like Wolverine. That's the thing. And he's actually the same height as the real Wolverine too, because the real Wolverine is not 6 foot. He's like 5. He's like 5'2", 5'3". That's a compliment, dude. My son.
And I would look really
after,
weird bald, so I'll go with Wolverine. I'm good with that.
You'd make a good Wolverine. Make a great Wolverine. Let's do our X-Men characters now. Leroy is Charles Xavier without the intelligence.
Yeah.
Olivia, now, he's a pompous dick. You're not. Charles Xavier.
Oh yeah.
Chuck's a pompous dick, especially in the movies. Well, Magneto, why don't you go fuck yourself? So you've got Olivia and Amy, and the question is, who is Rogue, who is Jean Summers? And I got to give Jean Summers to Amy because of the reddish hair, at least from the light she has going on. Jean Summers is Amy. Olivia would be Rogue, which means everything she touches dies, including my allergy medicine.
Which one's Jean Summers?
Who are you?
She the one that turns into Phoenix?
Yeah, she turns into Phoenix. I don't know. You guys are going to decide who I am. Mike is definitely.
I'm thinking the only bearded character that was in that series that even remotely looks like, and this was only in like the third movie, was that Iceman dude, right?
Oh,
I can see that.
You're not going to make me Iceman, dude, are you? You're not going to do that to me.
I mean, let's
get Michael.
A little bit, you look like him.
Michael's Wolverine, for sure. So I can't name myself. That's not the way this works. So look up some X-Men characters and figure out who I am.
That's what I'm doing right now. I got to look him up.
The Beast. I was thinking
Cyclops?
Beast. Hank McCoy. But not Cyclops.
Is that the blue one?
I think it was Hank McCoy. Yeah, probably Hank McCoy. I noticed nobody said Colossus. So
I don't know a lot about X-Men. I don't even know who you're calling me.
Mike Blankman says Aquaman. First of all, hold on a second. Mike Blankman says Aquaman. First of all, you're cross-referencing universes between two different comics, so fuck you very much.
Somebody said I was a Storm.
Talk about culturally appropriating a character. You're white. You can't be Storm. She's black.
Yeah.
What if Storm was Mexican?
Then it would be El Stormo.
I don't think Stormo is a word for storm in Spanish.
I'm sure it isn't, but it sounded funny. Everyone got the point.
More like angry
Juggernaut.
El Nino.
Amy Stamcombe just said the Juggernaut. I can deal with that. Once I get moving, I never stop. I kind of like that. I've always saw myself.
It's called Tormenta. It's called Tormenta in Spanish.
I was thinking Hank McCoy Beast, but honestly, to be transparent with you, Mike has the Beast down really well too. So I don't know. I think Hank McCoy. I agree. I think because he's got the smarts and he's got the strength and the looks and the giant penis. So all of those things make the trifecta. I agree. I agree with all of you. Stand by.
Wait, who did you name me as? I'm sorry, I'm very vain. I need to know who did you name me as. What
hold on a second. Leroy's like, hey, who's the guy with the biggest forehead?
You're Phoenix, Amy.
You're Phoenix. You're Gene Summers. Gene Summers.
Phoenix.
Gene Summers.
Phoenix.
Just looked at him.
I need to find that one.
Dude, she's smoking. She's one of the strongest Marvel characters in the world.
Yeah, but this is the one I'm thinking of. This is I can't. I don't know if you can see it, but like the blue guy in the corner there, like that guy. I don't know if you can see that.
That's Beast. That's Hank
Beast.
McCoy.
Yeah.
That's me.
That's what I would say. Because you have. Oh, sorry. Like, yeah.
You should have.
He's not an aircraft carrier. He's got the landing strip going on. Exactly. On that 5 from Leroy.
That's the wrong.
Leroy's texting me over here to say it because he won't say it himself. So.
Well, he already did. Listen, you're not okay. First of all, you.
I'm just noticing how everyone thinks that they're blue all of a sudden.
Blue. Oh, like we're culturally appropriating blue people?
You're right.
Oh, that makes
the
sense.
Smurfs.
Hey, they're big guy.
I could be Mystique.
Can't be Beast. You can't
You're
be
not
Mystique.
Oh yeah.
You're not blue.
You can't be.
Well, if I'm blue, everyone's
Mystique
blue.
is blue.
Am I blue in the X-Men world? I don't know.
No, you're just a fucking Phoenix
No.
who's hot. Okay,
Red.
shut up. You look good.
I don't know who it is.
She's
You're a
just
sexy
didn't look
bitch.
it up.
Kardashian.
Oh my
That's all
god.
she
I think I think we need to say Marvel characters, not just X-Men. But
Dude, seriously. And then Mike crossing into Aquaman. Dude,
Aquaman's DC.
what the hell's
Really?
wrong with you, bro?
It's DC.
God,
I don't read comic books, and I know that.
seriously.
I definitely don't know that, so I had to look it up.
Yeah,
See,
I had to
Gene
look it up
Summers
too.
was married to Cyclops. Scott Summers. She's the Phoenix. Yeah. So this is Jean Grey. Jean Grey is what all boys imagined when they were young.
Oh, she's
Not gonna,
pretty hot.
She's smoking. First of all, when she's in full Phoenix mode, first she's a scary fucking chick. There she is. She can melt down the whole world. But if you look at her, it's very Amy. I'm telling you, it's kind of scary. That's very Amy.
Jean Grey was Famke Janssen in the movies.
Yeah, but Famke Janssen's hot too. So that's Rogue. And she
Oh,
had this
she's
little.
like so pretty.
Yeah, she's smoking hot. I think we did very well. All right, so we're just going to do it. Here's Wolverine.
Her boobs are like a little crazy too.
Well, that's not
they're
Olivia.
That's not me,
That's,
but
that's
that's
where
okay.
the separation takes place.
Exactly.
So that's where we come back to reality.
Yeah, those are super cone shaped.
Shit.
Channeling
It's like from
Madonna.
like a 1950s brawl commercial.
So Wolverine is pretty standard. This is more 85 to 87 Wolverine without the beard. But
So can you
if
crop
we go,
that right at the knees?
yeah, but if we look at Logan the right way, and there's only one Logan, and that is going to be
Hugh
obviously.
Jackman.
Now I hate to use this one because this is the shittiest movie they ever did, but that's very much Michael.
I need
And
to do
then-
some more sit-ups for that, though.
Well, yeah. Professor Exo, Charles Chuck Xavier, is right here.
I
Hold
think
on.
that's the only one I know. Yeah. I think that's the only one I've actually like recognized.
It's played by
Right.
Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek.
Right, and here's his most recent picture in the movies. If you haven't seen it,
Oh, gee, what in the crap is this?
there's
That's Yul Brenner.
Exactly.
no, that's
my
Charles Xavier. Leroy, you look just like him. Oh,
You
you're
need,
right.
You need to play the King and I music. or something.
That is Yul Brenner. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead.
Oh,
And
I love that movie.
Well,
maybe
Brenner.
actually
There you
scratch
go.
that. You know what?
Oh.
I was wrong. Maybe Mike looks more like Professor X. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then let's see. I've got Hank McCoy, Beast. Did I ever tell you I own the first X-Men comic?
No.
$11,000 that was.
Jesus.
You own the first lady or
I do. I have the first copy of Lady Spider-Man. What's her name? Spider
Gwen,
Girl?
Spider Gwen.
Madam Spider.
Spider
Web?
Gwen. It's signed by all of the authors an artist, and it's got like a 9.8 rating
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
gonna be worth some bucks. There's
in the crap.
that's Hank
Beast.
McCoy. It's Beast.
Yeah.
Now,
It's Beast with a mullet.
Yeah,
now
love
this
it.
is now this is when I see myself as Beast a little more, because Beast used to look like, because he was always blue, but there was a time in the comics where he went back to his human form and he looked more human. But that's Beast. I'll take that.
Matt,
I'll
can
take
you please
Beast.
do a mullet?
No, but I can do the hairy back, and Olivia can attest. Like anytime she needs to, I'm like, hang on. She's just like, gotcha. So
I think I could give you a run for your money on that one. I think my wife can attest to that.
well, nothing wrong with being hairy. That's listen, that's the Greek in me. There's nothing I can do about that. All right. Well, now that we've had a wonderful entry into the show with only 90 people watching, because people are like, what the frack are we talking about?
What are you guys talking about?
They are. A lot of people are saying, "What are you guys talking about?" We don't know.
That's okay. We knew that this was occasionally going to happen. We're going to dive into. So the reason why we're talking about this is obviously something happened with Derek Chauvin. Now, there is a very mixed reaction between Derek Chauvin, George Floyd, BLM, all of it. And, you know, Dominic Izzo does a really good show, and he did a take on this, and he's an ex-cop. And when I say Dom's an ex-cop, like, he just posted his birthday picture from like 20 years ago, and it's him with two hookers. And I'm just like, God, I love this guy. He's completely a Chicago-style cop. So I want to watch that. And then Tucker did an interview as well, and I want to watch that as well, because Tucker does good stuff. But, of course, I saw the title of it, and I was a little put off. So we'll watch that. That's like 13 minutes. And I'd love for everyone to take some notes.
Yeah.
And tell me what you think. And we'll kind of go from there. That's fair. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm excited. I didn't know Tucker did an interview, so I'm excited to see this. I had no idea.
I am too. And to be honest with you, I'm not. I don't know. Just from seeing the intro, I don't know if I'm stoked on his position, but that's okay. You guys, let's do the Tucker one first, and then we can go ahead and do the Izzo one. I'm looking for the Izzo one. Do you remember what day that was on for Izzo? Mike, do you remember what day it was on?
No, because I just had it pop up on my on the Twitters.
Let me see if I can get to his page real quick. As long as we don't start talking about X-Men again, I think we'll be okay.
Oh, that's the cops.
There's female cops. All right, let me look. Yeah, I saw it post. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he put it on IG and that was it. You know, I saw it on Twitter. You looking, Mikey?
Yeah, I'm still looking.
Okay. I wanted to grab this before, but I didn't have time.
His recording of it was 2 days ago. I'm still looking for the video.
How did you know when the recording was?
Because it just popped up.
Oh, cool. All right, I'm going to go to Dominic's page and see if I can find it, because I like to show this first. See, I don't know if these are prostitutes or not. So I don't want to say something and have him get mad at me. They just might be call center or dispatch, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the player's playing the game. Here's the photo.
That is not dispatch. If did it like
it doesn't look like dispatch to me. I always get
no.
But I didn't want to. Where's Amy?
Did she accidentally drop off?
She ran
Oh,
away.
Get
what
Amy.
the hell?
Get Amy if we can. Text her real quick and see if we can get her. And then we'll start this as soon as she gets back.
I will say this: I've probably seen. I didn't see the Tucker thing on
Sorry.
Derek Chauvin yet, but I did see a couple of other posts, and none of them spoke kindly to him, and I just thought that was kind of sad.
Nobody spoke kindly about Chauvin?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's watch Tucker, and then we'll all comment on this. Okay.
Yeah.
Sound good,
Yeah.
everybody? All right, cool. Let me
Sounds
hit the
good.
pedals. Pedals. That's a problem when you're wearing flip flops. You can't hit the pedals. Let's try this again. Why isn't this working? I had it working. Well, whatever. It's just a pedal. All right. You guys look at this. I'm going to look at this over here and take notes, because if you have questions, I'm not going to pause the video. We're going to watch this in its entirety if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. You guys tell me also if this echoes. Please.
There we go. No sound, Matt.
Yeah, I have no sound either.
No sound, huh?
Nope.
Okay, hold on. Make sure this doesn't echo.
And ordered to repeat. Are they in fact true?
There we go.
Did, for example, a racist white... Now that we know that it was not in fact a pandemic of the unvaccinated, now that we know that Ukraine is not actually winning the war against Russia, it could be time to revisit some of the other slogans we've been assured
No
are
sound, babe.
true and ordered to repeat. Are they in
I
fact
got
true?
it now.
Oh.
Did, for example, a racist white cop actually murder a man called...
Okay, I need everyone to tell me. Sorry, I think we have a delay on the no sound. Everyone green light if it's sound.
I think we're good.
Okay, here we go.
George Floyd, a
They're good
civil
for
rights
us.
leader, in Minneapolis on Memorial Day of 2020. Now, we've been told that happened, told it relentlessly for more than 3 years. So at this point, we've been told it so much that pretty much everybody seems to believe it. And because everyone does kind of believe it, a small group of people has been allowed to make massive changes to American society. They include, but are not limited to, decriminalizing stealing, defunding the police, adding a new federal holiday to the calendar called Juneteenth, the ceasing of hiring all white men in corporate America, and of course, significantly, they also sent a cop called Derek Chauvin to prison for more than 40 years. He would be the racist white devil who murdered George Floyd. But the question is, did he actually murder George Floyd? And the answer is, well, no, he didn't murder George Floyd. And we're not guessing about that. We know it conclusively thanks to a new court case now underway in Hennepin County, Minnesota. The case was brought by a prosecutor there called Amy Sweezy. She's suing her boss. So the case is not actually about George Floyd or Derek Chauvin, but it tells you an awful lot about both of them. In her deposition, which you should read, Amy Sweezy describes a conversation that she had with the county medical examiner, Andrew Baker, right after George Floyd died. Quote, I called Dr. Baker early that morning to tell him about the case and to ask him if he would perform the autopsy on Mr. Floyd. Sweezy recalls all this under oath in the deposition. Quote, he called me later in the day on that Tuesday, and he told me that there were no medical findings that showed any injury to the vital structures of Mr. Floyd's neck. There were no medical indications of asphyxia or strangulation. Oh. In other words, George Floyd, according to the official autopsy, was not murdered. He died instead of what we used to call natural causes, which in his case would include decades of drug use, as well as the fatal concentration of fentanyl that was in his system on his final day. So this was not a killing. It was yet another narcotics OD in a country that records more than 100,000 of them every year. The medical examiner clearly understood that and, in fact, articulated it. And Sweezy explains. He said to me, she recalls in the deposition, Amy, what happens when the actual evidence doesn't match up with the public narrative that everyone's already decided on? And then he said, quote, this is the kind of case that ends careers. In other words, everyone lied about it from the very beginning. The people who knew the truth hid the truth and allowed the revolution to proceed. Now they've been exposed. Now we know the truth. What happens next? Well, they're going to ignore it. The Biden administration just issued a long purple statement celebrating George Floyd's birthday. He's a martyr, despite the fact we know that he was not murdered. And by the way, Derek Chauvin is still languishing in jail for the rest of his life. So how do we respond to this? How do we respond to the truth once we have it? Well, Vince Everett Ellison seemed like a good man to ask. He's the author of Crime, Inc. He joins us now. Vince, thanks so much for coming on. So as with so many other stories, the origin
thanks for having me, Tucker.
of COVID, it's a blessing to have you. We now know what actually happened.
I said I wasn't going to pause it, but if you're ever in an interview on Fox or CNN, when somebody says, hey, how are you? They don't want to know. And they don't want you to answer. They just want you to sit there so they can go into their monologue. I'm just letting you know. So don't ever be like, hey, Tucker, I'm doing really good. How are you? Even though that's what I'll do. If I ever get on Fox, I'll be like, actually, I'm wonderful, Sean. Thanks for asking. How are you? How are the kids? How's Martha? How's little Susie and Jackie? They're fine. Well, great. Your grandmother, how's she been? Right? What did you have for Thanksgiving dinner? Well, Matt, we got to move on. Well, then why the fuck are you asking me, Hannity? I'm sure that's going to go over well.
So true.
But the question then is, what do you do with that knowledge? We know that the U.S. government, Tony Fauci, worked with the Chinese to create the virus that overturned the American economy. But, like, what do we do with that knowledge? What do we do with the knowledge that George Floyd was not actually strangled to death by a cop?
We have to acknowledge the people that gave it to us and why. See, George Floyd is the Democratic Party's prototypical black man. These are the black men they are trying to create. So George Floyd has to be elevated. He has to be celebrated. He's perfect to them. He was poor. He was uneducated. He was a drug addict. He didn't have a job. He was down there begging and crying and asking the white people to not kill him. To a Democrat, to a white Democrat, this is the perfect black man. So he has to be elevated. Look, not a few days ago, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden celebrated hip-hop music. They had a celebration of hip-hop.
Hip-hop culture is America's culture. It is a genre. It is...
Is it like a Venn diagram?
Oh my God, she looks like a bottle of Pepto-Bismol.
I love it. Yeah,
I was going to say a Barney who's seen a little too much sun, or a little not enough sun. Maybe would be the appropriate term.
To an ethos.
A music genre that calls the black man the N-word, calls women the W word and the B word, talks about misogyny, shooting police, smoking dope, selling dope, fighting, killing, acting a fool. They celebrated this genre. Why? Because this is how they see black America. They see us the same way they see George Floyd. And they have to make more of us because everywhere they rule, John F. Kennedy stood in front of the Berlin Wall in the 60s and said, if you think that communism is great, let them come to Berlin. Well, if you think that the Democratic Party is great, let them come to Detroit. Let them come to Chicago. Let them come to St. Louis. Let them come to L.A., Portland, Seattle, Memphis. Anywhere where they rule, you'll see George Floyd's all over the place. And they're proud of them. In Baltimore, Maryland, they spend $21,000 per child for every child.
So maybe we do have to interrupt. Do you think Tucker wound up getting a black man because this would be socially acceptable if he is the one saying these things versus a white guy?
No, 100%. Yeah, this is, yeah.
I think,
So
I think it's one of those he felt like he had to.
Isn't that interesting? And Tucker doesn't remind me of a person who would placate, but see, I have no problem saying some of these things being white, black, or brown or indifferent. I don't care. You're not going to ever get to call me a racist because because I do this to everybody. I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're handicapped. I think we proved that tonight. Everybody gets a little bit. It's just fun. It's just in good fun to make fun of people, and I let people make fun of me, and that's what it's all about, right? But the fact that I don't want to hear from this guy. I want to hear from Tucker. And the difference between all of Tucker's other interviews is that Tucker's leading the show. I don't like this version. I don't like him bringing in special guests. I hated that about Fox News because either that person he was going to destroy or he was just going to let them talk. And in my opinion, I think Tucker's the guy we should hear from. That's just me. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. Who wants to jump in on that? If anybody.
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
I absolutely agree. I actually did not like Tucker Carlson's show when he was on Fox, and I'm not a religious follower of him. He's truly not my favorite person. But I have watched more of his shows now that he's on just X, or I don't know if he's on something else. I just watch it. We watch it on streaming or whatever it's called. I don't know. So we do watch it more often now after he does his live show or whatever it is. So I do watch it more now because I appreciate his point of view more. I feel like he's more unleashed or just able to give his full opinion. So I absolutely agree. I feel like this feels like Fox again.
Okay. Yeah.
And I haven't seen this yet. So
fair enough.
I actually think it's the exact opposite. I think that what you were seeing on Fox was what Fox wanted to portray Tucker as. Now that this is actually his show, right? He's basically running things as he sees fit. And so he's able to kind of do this kind of, all right, I'm going to bring on this person and I'm going to interview them for such and such period of time. Whereas if had that happen on Fox, they would want him to stick to a very prescribed formula for what we already know to be a semi-contentious show at times.
I don't know whether I disagree or whether I would just say I don't think we have enough data for his new show to make a comparison contrast.
Sure.
But I do believe that out of the 12 or 13 shows he's done, this is the first time he's used this format. And I think it's very interesting that it happens to be about a black man who, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And brings another black man to say what we know Tucker Carlson thinks. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, and this is one of those that, to me, just seeing this so far, it's Tucker's bringing in someone of the correct race that can say these things without getting poked, and he's getting someone who's agreeing with him rather than being able to spar with someone who's not, and just kind of allowing him to go and push the, I don't want to say push the narrative that Tucker wants, but like they completely or more than likely align with what they're trying to get across, rather than like, no, I want someone from the other side and let's spar this out.
So we call this safe. This is safe for Tucker. Can we at least say that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I don't think Tucker left Fox from his own volition, but I also don't believe he left Fox to play it safe. No. I would have put the most ardent Floyd supporter there and said, let's go. Or I would have put Tucker in the middle, and I would have bought one person on one side, one person on the other, and listen, right?
Let's hear the other side of the argument. Tucker in the middle.
Ooh, I kind of like that show.
Look at that.
Olivia and I play that all the time.
No. I picture Ryan Reynolds, not Tucker.
Yeah. Excuse me. If Ryan Reynolds is there, I would definitely be the one in the middle, not him. I'm just saying.
I took it a different way.
I also would take it a different way if Ryan Reynolds was here too. Let's just come full circle. All right, here we go. Good points, everybody. Seriously. Yep. All right, let's listen.
Up there inside the school district, not one school is proficient in math, science, or reading, but they keep it going every year. Why? Because they're producing George Floyds.
But
George Floyd's vote for the Democrat Party.
But why would, so when most of us, you, me, I think all normal people look at George Floyd's life, you think this is a disaster. This guy never added anything. He took a lot, in prison at least 8 times. I mean, his life was a tragedy at best. Why would you want more people like that?
Because he votes for the Democrat Party, and then he teaches his children to vote for the Democrat Party, and then these white Democrats can feel superior to him. Yeah. He can be controlled by them. Just like, think about an old slave plantation, Tucker, back in the day, how they wanted their slaves to act. Subservient, obedient, ignorant, doing what he was told, not asking any questions, having a slave mind, being dependent on them. This is how they want black men to be in America. This is how they want the whole black community to be. This is why it started in the civil rights movement. When Martin Luther King Jr. in his I Have a Green speech said, 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. He said 5 times in that speech that we were not free. It turned the Declaration of Independence on its head, because in our Declaration of Independence it says that our freedom was an unalienable right given us by God. John Locke in his second treatise of government said that an unalienable right is a right given from God. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. The government cannot touch it. It supersedes law. It supersedes the Constitution. However, King said that we was coming to government and to the white man for our right to be free. Even at the end of the speech, he said, on some certain day, we'll be free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. He said in that speech, when will we be satisfied? He said, we will never be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. That's a fancy way of saying never. And so black people heard that speech and said that we were not free here in America. And we make our children recite that speech every single year on King's birthday. And they say in that speech, the Negro is still not free. George Floyd was a slave in his mind. And the civil rights movement caused him to be a slave in his mind. And today they're still marching, 60 years later, telling black people, you're not free. Beg for reparations. Beg for affirmative action. Kill your children in the womb. Cut off your child. You castrate your children. Let drag queens come into school and shake their behinds in your children's faces. Run God out of the public square. And then they end up like George Floyd. But the one thing they do consistently is they vote for the Democrat Party, and the places where George Floyd's live, they stay in absolute power.
That's a pretty dark explanation. So you're saying that the Democratic Party as an organization intentionally degrades black people to keep them compliant and obedient.
I just want to say, folks, there is a white guy who has been saying this for quite a while. I can't remember his name, but it starts with Ank and ends with McCoy. Listen, I'm not afraid to say, I've been saying that shit for how long, that these modern day slave plantations and that you can't say this stuff on Fox. But what's interesting, if you look at Fox's demographic, out of the viewers that they have, folks, I hate to tell you, but it's not a lot of black people watch Fox. So the reason why they won't put this on is because it won't sell. Because this is the problem. At least Tucker is putting this guy on. And even though I think it's safe for Tucker to do this, I don't think people would listen when Tucker says this. I think you're going to have more people involved in this. I've seen more people hit this video than any other of Tucker's, because you have black people who are saying, no, this is bullshit. And you have other black people who are saying, actually, yes, this is true. I got to give it to him for bringing this up. I actually like this portion. Now, the whole Derek Chauvin thing's another topic. Anybody want to chime in on that as far as the validity of this, the gravitas of this, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I mean, there's a few points that I'd like to address, but the number one that you just said, and we've said this, I can't tell you how many times on this show, is that when you can control what a person hears and how they think and how they feel, how they're supposed to feel to certain headlines or to certain, situations, if you can control that much, you can control their voting patterns.
Yeah.
Matt and I have been saying it for a long time.
Yeah,
and that's really the ultimate goal. And they don't really give a shit what happens at the end of the day to a lot of demographics. They don't care. They just want to make sure they can control the voting patterns. That's all it is.
Mike, when you think about this, and then Amy, I'm going to kick it back over to you. When you look at people coming into the military, it's predominantly underprivileged black youth in high crime areas, city environments. In the Marine Corps, I know you got a metric shit ton of them, and I'm certain the longer you stay in, the less you know from a consistent basis or previously known. Because what people don't talk about is that there's a large amount of attrition of African American people in the military. They exit in the first 4 years faster than any other race and demographic because they feel that they were conned. Some stay because they don't have any other options. Your thoughts on how this in the military, how is this portrayed with inner city youth, and did you experience it when you were in the Marine Corps?
Oh yes, I definitely, and there's two or three that I can vividly remember. They were from Chicago, and they were actually from rival gangs. So we definitely had some good squabbles in our squad bay between them. But no, I mean, I think it's true for the entire military. Like once you get in, everybody's green. Like it's not that you aren't getting pandered to from the media because you're a certain color. Like you equally get shit on by everybody. You get hazed by the drill instructors nonstop, and it doesn't matter who you are. Like, if you're a shitbag, you're a shitbag, and you're gonna get it. It doesn't matter where you're from. Like, I know in our class, like, we had everyone from millionaires all the way down to like the gang members. So we literally had any class you could think of from anywhere. The farmers, the rednecks, inner city people, never held a weapon before. Like, it doesn't matter. But that's the thing, like, you're not getting catered to. You're not getting that special treatment. You're not getting your phone or your extra, your extra like healthcare or whatever else, the little prop ups that you're getting. They're like, oh, look, they're gonna give me all these freebies. So yes, I'm gonna vote this way. Like, all that is gone. You get your food and y'all get beat up. And then guess what? You start to learn and come together as a unit. But guess what? That doesn't sell. That's not what they're being propped up. It's like, oh, well, I'm special. Like, no, you're not. Nobody's special. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I could definitely see like, yeah, that happens pretty quick. If once you lose all that and you're equal to everybody else, then a lot of people just run. It's like, oh, that's not what I wanted. Like, that's not what I was told. It's like, guess what? None of us are special. Every one of us is replaceable. And you're going to learn that fact real quick.
Yeah. Recruiters, the biggest liars on the planet. Amy, go ahead.
So I grew up in the middle of Baltimore and Annapolis, Maryland, like literally halfway point between the two.
That's funny. You don't look black.
I know.
Come on. No? Oh, God, jeez. Oh.
I know. I got it.
I thought that was good.
It was good. I thought it was good.
See, folks, because everybody from Baltimore is black.
Jewish.
That's funny. It was sorry.
No, I'm just.
But is that not true? I mean, am I lying? Am I lying?
Well, no, I mean, Baltimore has a huge. I don't even know. I don't know the statistics. I grew up in the middle of both.
Draw a line from the center of Baltimore to Annapolis, and there's some rough areas in between there, don't you think?
Well, yeah. There's a lot. A lot. Baltimore's probably there's outside of Baltimore, there's some probably worse areas than in the city.
Listen, when you go into a city and you go buy season tickets to the Orioles, and they recommend that you don't park downtown if you're white, you might want to consider that's what is happening to season ticket holders in the Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore's a dangerous place. Go ahead, Amy. I'm sorry.
No, it is. It's so dangerous. And I've been to a few Orioles games even recently. Well, this past summer, not like in the fall season. But I did go, and I will tell you, I mean, I grew up in this area. I went to Baltimore all the time. My girlfriends and I would go to like the clubs there. Like, that was like our scene. We'd also go to Annapolis to like the bars there. There was no clubs. There was one club, but like we would hang out in both areas. I was also part of the Young Republicans, which was based in Annapolis. That was our meeting spot. So I had friends of all walks of life. Where I lived, it wasn't a ton of diversity, like skin color wise, but there was a ton of diversity in other aspects of our world. But I had friends of all over, and I still do. I remember my friends in the Baltimore area specifically who were Black that had the more mindset. This is me looking back at hindsight. I did not think about this until just now.
She's
their
thinking,
mindset
folks.
of
There it is.
Oh, was I freeze? My internet's been so bad lately.
You're okay.
But I feel like my friends who were in Baltimore or in the outskirts, that suburb area, those friends had the more of like the victim mentality. Like, woe is me, what can I get? Like, the system's against us. And then I feel like my friends that were Black or different races and different colors near the Annapolis area, which is more affluent, more wealthy, they didn't have that same mindset. They were more like, what can I do to get the next level? I'm going to make sure that my family doesn't have to struggle as much as, my family struggled to get me into this school and things like that. So I do think the cities are probably, I'm literally just like going through this in my mind right now, like processing this because I'm like, oh my gosh, I lived in the middle of both areas. I went to both all the time. I had friends of all walks of life, all colors in both areas. And just like hearing this, it's like, oh crap. Yeah. Like, this is not blaming the cities exactly, but it is a victim mentality, I think. And I want to be like, oh my gosh, like it's sad because even now to this day, one of my good friends he's Black and he is so successful. We're always like picking his brain, like, hey, how, like he's literally one of the top producers in our nation. Like he's like semi-famous. I won't throw his name up. Like he was like my high school. He was like our class president. Like he's
Dave
like
Chappelle?
no, but he's a Black
Dave lives
guy,
next
right?
to me, actually.
He's a Black guy, but like he's a Black guy. He's like, even in high school, he was just like, oh, I'm good. Like he was like, I'm gonna be class president here, and I was like, everyone was friends with him. Like he didn't have an enemy. Like everybody loved him because he got along with everyone, but he's never played the victim. And I think about him and like how far he's come. Like we're in our 40s now, and I'm like, damn, Phil, like you have really made it in life. Like you are like close to being like a billionaire, I'm sure. Like you have like this amazing family. Like he's just got it all together. Like he never had that victim mentality. Even though we grew up the same place. We grew up 30 minutes from Baltimore, 30 minutes from Annapolis. Like he always was like, his family raised him to say, work hard, you get what you get in life. You know, you got to work for it. There was never that victim mentality. But I have friends who were in the city of Baltimore who were always like the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
White, Black, or otherwise. It doesn't like, that was like the city. It didn't matter their skin color. It was like, you're the victim in the city.
Maybe he wants to invest into a podcast. Let me know.
He has. I'll show you. I'll tell you his name when we're not on here. I don't want to.
No.
Like,
We're talking about our podcast. I don't give a shit about investing in other podcasts. We'll, we need a we need a someone who wants to bankroll us. We're more than welcome. So
yeah, he's a pretty cool person.
Well, I'd like to meet the guy. All right, let's finish watching this, and then we'll bring it back full circle.
Oh, yes. In my book, Crime Inc., I talk about one of the main things they do, like the mafia and organized crime. They humiliate black people. They demoralize them. It's a Marxist construct. They demoralize their people. They beat them down. They tell them that they're victims. Well, it was Martin Luther King Jr. that said, they tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, how can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps when you're bootless? You know, he told us we were bootless. You know, you have black preachers, and you've heard, you know about my iron triangle, the black preacher, the black politician, the black civil rights worker. They go into the black community. Consistently, you're a victim. You're oppressed. The country hates you. Well, see, I look at them and I say, I'm a black man, but I cannot be oppressed. You know why? Because I'm a child of God. I'm an heir of Jesus Christ. I cannot be a victim. Why? Because I'm an heir of Jesus Christ. I'm a child of God. I cannot be a victim. See, they tell these people to go against their religion and their basic ideology because most black men say they're Christians, right? But then they walk around saying, I'm oppressed. I'm a victim. I'm afraid. 365 times in our Bible, they tell us to fear not. Yet they walk around saying they're afraid in the United States of America. LeBron James said he's afraid. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said he's afraid. Kaepernick said he's afraid. Well, I'm a black man in America, and I'm not afraid of a damn thing. I don't ask for permission in my own house. America is my home. So as they walk around here crying, talking about, I'm frightened, I'm afraid, I can't make it, please help me, I tell them they stink in my nostrils. They're an affront to God. The flip side of white male intimidation during the civil rights was also black male cowardice. They laid down and let them beat them, slap them around, rape their wives and their children. Well, no, not me, never me. I'm a free man. I live in the United States of America. They say it's an honor to be, that there's white supremacy and that white people have some type of privilege. Well, as I said before, it is a privilege to be white, but it's also a privilege to be black. And it's a privilege to be an American. And it's really a privilege to be a Christian in the United States of America, the greatest country on the face of this earth. And they're not going to make a George Floyd out of me. I stand up strong. I look them in the eye. And I say, I'm a free man. My freedom comes from God. It's an unalienable right given to me by him. You cannot touch it. And if you try it, I got two things that'll get you off of me. Jesus and my 38. Come try me out.
I like it.
That was awesome.
This guy needs his own podcast.
So the Democratic Party used BLM
as
a domestic militia.
Let's make sure we research him and let's see if we can get him on the show because I'd love to get
What's
this guy.
his name?
We'll research him after the show.
He's Vince from Crime Inc. I don't know his last name, but Vince something.
Presidential cycle 2020 to defeat Donald Trump. Do you expect something like that to happen again?
Well, you see how they use the same tactics as Iran. Iran has Hezbollah and Hamas as their militias. And the Democratic Party uses BLM and Antifa as theirs, throwing the rock and hiding the hand. Of course they're going to do it. They've always done it. Even at the beginning, they used the Ku Klux Klan for the military ring. Now they're using BLM, they're using Antifa, they're using NAACP, and they're their suicide bombers. They're their shock troops. They're their brown shirts. They're their street soldiers. And they're going to go.
God, I love this guy.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I do too.
Dude, I've been saying this shit for. It's nice to hear somebody besides myself and a few others say this. And, you know, between him and Ice Cube, I'm pretty fucking proud because Ice Cube's been saying this for a while too. He's not the only one. He's like, listen, I don't have to vote for Trump, but I damn well am not going to vote for a Democrat. And I'm like, that's a really good point.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Going to go out there, and I guarantee you, Tucker, they're going to look over all the black-on-black violence. They're going to look over all the black men killing black men. They're going to look over all the snatching grabs and all the burning and all the fighting and looting and acting a fool. And they're going to find one crazy white cop that's going to do something to some crazy black man, and then they're going to try to burn this country down for it. That's their plan. That's their template. I hope America's ready for it because it's coming. And it always works for them. It always works because the press and everybody's just waiting. Oh, they're on the starting line just waiting for it. And as soon as they find that golden kill, watch them go crazy with it. BLM is going to start getting their money from the Democrat Party because that's who they get it from. The same way that Hamas gets their money from Iran. BLM gets their money from the Democrat Party. And BLM does not stand for Black Lives Matter. It stands for burn, loot, and murder. And that's what we should call them from now on.
Vince Everett Ellison.
Vince Everett Ellison.
Everett Ellison. Yeah.
So let's open this up. People are like, Matt, we need to have raw honey. You guys, this is my 4th hour of talking.
It ain't getting better.
It took me 3 hours to do the show this morning because I couldn't get past without coughing. And now I'm live. So that's the way it is. All right. So here's what it comes down to. Let's ask the question. Does Derek Chauvin deserve to spend the next 40 years in prison for doing... fuck's sake.
Wow.
Jeez.
Thanks for watching, folks. That was the show.
That was a good show, folks. Really had a good time. Good night. Thank you.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show.
So now that we've got the answer from Liv, I mean, hasn't said shit for an hour. No. Okay, well.
Comes in with the people's elbow.
And so just fucking everybody.
Because when she doesn't talk a lot, but when she says is important, so we got to listen.
So does Derek Chauvin deserve to spend 40 years in jail for what happened? Now, we can talk about the time, which is important because if it's manslaughter, does it deserve 40 years?
No.
If it's first-degree murder, it's not. If it's second degree, we need to figure out, obviously, the crime. Does Derek Chauvin's personal history, is it important to weigh in this case? And I think everybody says yes. Then why is George Floyd's not?
Exactly.
So if we're going to say it, so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about this. My statement is that the powers that be were going to do whatever they could to make sure that an O.J. Simpson situation or Rodney King did not take place.
Yep.
And Derek Chauvin is just a man. And they were going to sacrifice his ass no matter what happened. Guilty, not innocent, it doesn't matter. He was going down no matter what, and they needed blood. They needed to bloodlet him. The question is it worth it? In order to stop what was going to happen, because if he was innocent, every city in America would have burned.
Yep.
You would have had hundreds of billions in damages, countless cops dead. There are so many questions here. and this is a tough topic. So I would love, now, I usually don't do free for all. We pick people, but this is a free for all. That's the next hour. So if you got something, throw it out there now.
Where do you want to start?
Mike, you go.
All right. Well, let's just start with the first question you had, which I think it was, does he deserve guilty?
Does he deserve 40 years for what he did?
So I'm going to say no with a caveat, not 40 years. Does he deserve punishment for what he did? Yes. But I think 40 is excessive.
Yep.
So, and again, it's one of those, just like you said, of bringing in all of the factors of George Floyd's background plus his. Did he go out and flat out murder him? No, he didn't. Did his actions, along with the actions of George Floyd, lead to his death? Absolutely. Like, you can't tell me that once he got him in handcuffs and subdued, that his ego didn't kick in and he kept going and he kept the pressure on George Floyd to where he wasn't able to turn that switch off. That I think most folks who either are in the military or in situations to where you're going to get amped up and you're putting your life on the line, there's a switch that you have to do in order to do that. Mm-hmm. But you also have to be professional enough to know when it's time to turn that off, or when in that situation you need to switch from that aggression from that individual to now going back, assessing, looking at your surroundings to make sure you still have that full picture and you're not having that tunnel vision, which I think he 100% lost that. So is he culpable? Absolutely. The 40 is excessive. But yeah, like, if he would have got a not guilty, this country would have gone down the drain. It would have completely, like, and I forget if it was Oregon or if it was up in Seattle where they burned the courthouse. That would have been Oregon, the entire country. Yeah. That would have been the entire country would have went up that night. Like, it would have been horrible. So did he get used as a scapegoat? Yes. Is he culpable in it? Yes. Is it excessive on the amount of time? Absolutely.
Real quick. Yeah. The video you see up in the top right is not Chauvin. We're not allowed to show that or YouTube will ban us. But I can show you tens of thousands, I'm not kidding, of videos of people using this very technique, putting a knee in the middle of the spine / base of the neck on a human being. Do I think there's one big difference. This man is not cuffed. He has him restrained and he has the thumb grip on him. And there's the difference. So I want to be clear on that. This isn't Chauvin, and this is being used in the right circumstance. There's a few things that we also need to understand. With the Chauvin video, he was next to exhaust. That's going to create issues with his breathing, his oxygen levels, CO2 levels. He had fentanyl in his system. He dosed a lethal dose of fentanyl, and he also had his chest constricted. And you already have suppressed breathing when you're on opiates. It's just something everyone knows who's been on opiates, including myself, is you have horrible suppressed breathing. Now that we've kind of addressed the 40 years, I think do we all agree? Does anyone want to challenge that? We agree that there should have been some time served here. There should have been a punishment, obviously, because this, in the very least, it was negligence, right? Yep. Your job is to protect and to serve when he's under your custody. Somebody died under your care. We understand the mitigating circumstances, but there should be some form of punishment. And we're not saying that means suspension. We're not saying that means jail time. We're not saying that's a first degree or homicide, manslaughter, negligent homicide. We're not saying any of that. We're just saying that there should have been a punishment doled out. I think everyone agrees there's a level of guilt that took place with him. Does anyone disagree with that?
Nope.
No, but okay. I do have a comment on it.
Yeah, go ahead, make your comment, then we'll kick it over to the next one.
This case was one of those so politicized that there's no it's a no-win scenario for him. Mm-hmm. And we know that because you can Google various murderers, women who have murdered, men who have murdered, it doesn't matter. People who get convicted of murder and then their sentence is 5, 10 years in
Yes.
some cases, right? So you
Exactly.
see all of these cases where a similar act was done and they get way less time. So that's because of how politicized this event had become. Now, the left, what the gentleman that was on Tucker Carlson's show kept bringing up black and white, and I understand why, because that's what a lot of people see. That's what the left needs you to see. That's how it was portrayed in the news for years, right? The left needs you to see this as a black and white issue because their magic show depends on that misdirection, right? They have to keep you distracted from that hypocrisy. And this is what I mean. We heard the entire court case in every major media outlet. We all heard the same thing. The argument from the left was that Derek Chauvin was in the wrong because he was infringing upon the rights of another person, assaulted him, and unfortunately that man died. Okay. And so for all of the far lefty stations who are rejoicing right now, what's the difference? What's the difference between what happened to Mr. Floyd and what's the difference between Derek Chauvin, right? They were both assaulted and more or less left for dead. But in one case you celebrate it, in the other case you're enraged over it. And that's the hypocrisy that I'm talking about. The left is okay with violence just so long as that it meets their end goals. And that's why they need this to be a black and white issue.
Yeah, you convinced me because I was completely opposite of what you just said. But it's very convincing because the argument being that the left created George Floyd. Yeah. It's their policies that created George Floyd, and therefore that creates culpability. But for the people who are like, they just let the man rot. I'm like, yeah, but he broke the law. It doesn't matter whether it's 40 years. He's in jail at least for a certain amount of time that he deserves to be there. But does he deserve to be in general pop? Does he deserve to no? Those things don't deserve to happen. He wasn't. No firing squad was assigned to his sentence. This man wasn't going to be executed. This man was probably going to be out in the next 10 to 12 years anyway. He wasn't going to serve the full 40. We know that, and he shouldn't. Here's the thing I'll say. I said this, and this was probably one of my most controversial things that I said, and I lost a lot of black friends for it. A lot. And some of these people were neighbors who I love. And I said, I'm not going to take either side, but the one thing I will say is when Derek Chauvin stood up when he was found guilty and he turned around, he immediately put his hands behind his back. There was no struggle. And I said, if George Floyd just would have done what Derek Chauvin just did, he'd be alive today. And that pissed off so many people. I can't tell you how much hate I got called a racist. And I said, listen, you can go ahead and you can talk about how there's a dual system of justice. You can talk about how Chauvin was essentially a scapegoat. You can talk about how George Floyd shouldn't have died that day. Okay, but if you're not going to talk about how George Floyd reacted to this arrest, and if he just would have done, if he wouldn't have swallowed the amount of drugs that he did to cover up evidence, if he wouldn't have written the bad checks, if he wouldn't have struggled and spit on cops and kicked cops to the point where they're just like, fuck this guy. The last thing I'm going to say, consider this my time, is I don't mean to be rude, but if every single cop had to take seriously every single convict, every single perpetrator, every single felon, every single detainee that said, I can't breathe, or you're hurting me, or I need an ambulance, then we would never have any ambulances for anybody who wasn't a criminal or a perpetrator, because every ride-along I've been on, over 180 hours of ride-alongs I've been on, I have never seen a criminal not say the following words.
Yeah.
That hurts. I need an ambulance. I'm having a heart attack. I can't breathe. I have a bum shoulder. You can't put those costs. Every fucking one, white, black, brown, woman, doesn't matter. Every single person said those words that on every single ride along that I've ever been on. The great thing about most of my ride alongs is that most of the cops that I was going with in Wyoming would would open up a channel inside the car so I could hear them. So they didn't have cameras back then, but I could hear every interaction. 180 hours must have went on 1,000 stops, at least. On a 12-hour rotation, and max amount of time in the car we could be was anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, depending. We'd probably see 30, 35, 40 interactions at least. That was at the minimum. So I think people who want to go after cops, I think Chauvin's guilty. I think Chauvin used excessive force. I think he should be off the force. I think at the very least it is manslaughter. You had no reason to get him out of the car. You had no reason to lay him on the ground. You had no reason to put your knee into him. He was absolutely under your custodian care, and your responsibility was to protect him life and limb, and you failed. That is dereliction of the job that you're sworn to do. He should be in prison. For how long? I'm not judge, jury, and trial. Who else wants to go?
Well, Matt, I think the one thing you brought up, to me, a lot of this goes down to respect for authority figures. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And this is like, my father is a retired cop. My father-in-law is a retired police chief. And like, I got a bunch of law enforcement in my family. The number one thing that they always say is like, as soon as a cop comes up and starts questioning you, you shut your mouth. And you're like, nope, I want a lawyer. But you do it in a respectful way. You don't give them any reason to not think that you're not going to cooperate or you're going to be some type of hostile person that's going to make them amp up. Because if you stay calm, more than likely the officer is going to stay calm.
Absolutely.
So it's the just full lack of respect for authority figure or not. Like, and I got it. People don't want to like have their rights infringed, but guess what? If the cop's in the wrong, there's a process to deal with it after the fact, and there's a good chance that you can get paid for it. But your actions of escalating it is going to be met with an equal to or a higher escalation in order to get the situation down to where the officer wants it. And you're never going to win that fight.
So
that's
good point.
Every one of these needs to go back to, if something is happening, you need to stay calm. But that's the problem. There's so many hotheads around. And I know like I'll pop off occasionally too. If you stay calm, the situation will stay calm and you can deal with it after. But everyone's like, oh no, I have my rights. I can do whatever I want. It's like, cool, you can do what you want, but you're going to be met with a consequence. Whether it's good or bad, you're going to have it. So and this is the one thing that everyone talks about. It's like, oh, it's the officer's fault. What about the freaking community? Yeah. They're the ones that are popping off, doing all this crime, acting a fool. And yet no one's sitting here and talk about like their actions need to change. That's the one thing with this whole narrative on the left that is like, oh, it's all the officer's fault. Yes. Is there a couple of bad eggs? Absolutely. But there's a lot more on the community side, and that is never addressed in any of this. That's where we really need to start, is get the community to care. And actually, I would love the communities to check themselves. If you have someone acting out of line, the community get that back into it, so that way the police don't have to get involved unless you get to a situation where you need it, but that's a last resort.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I loved about the military, is because if we had problems, we would go deal with it.
We sell that shit ourselves.
Yeah, we would go out in the back. Whatever you need to do to settle it, you would get it done. You come back, and everything was taken care of, so you can be a cohesive unit.
We threw the smelly guy off the quarterdeck. We threw the smelly guy off the quarterdeck underway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, we're running stagnant drills, and you know we're anchored, so he's not going to die. But there's times when captain's mast isn't enough, and you got to take care of things, man. And people don't get it. They don't get you give them an ice bucket shower in the middle of the morning. Okay, they don't get it when you decide to give them a blanket party. So there are times when you're like, all right, well, serious situations are going to take place. Your cover just went in the water, and guess what? You're going to go after it, and we're going to tell the captain that. You say anything else, then you've got a problem. Good night, buddy. So go. Who wants to go?
Well, I just wanted to address something real quick. To Mike's point, right? Every cop that's out there has the ability to use lethal force. So the moment you, whether or not you're a hothead or not, the moment you decide, all right, I've got a wild hair at my ass and this guy is wrong and I'm going to fight him on it, the moment you do that and you become belligerent and you introduce those kind of variables, this guy, and doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, right? The fact of the matter is, stay calm, because this is a guy who's got, lethal force on him. You don't want to escalate that. And so that's never going to be a battle that you would win ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ames?
I just want to say it comes down to the training of the police officers. Where we live in particular, I think the police officers all have exceptional training, except literally our neighboring county. I think their training is very lax and very poor, and they are our next door neighbors, and they're only a few miles from us. I actually had a encounter. I mean, I was not breaking the law, but I had a conversation with a neighboring police officer from the neighboring county, and I didn't tell him, like, hey, I know such. I didn't, because I'm not that person. I'm not like, oh, I just was like, why are you even talking to me? I'm not. He even said, like, oh, you're not breaking any laws. He was just an a-hole. And so I ended up not reporting this person formally, but I let it be known to the people that I know, like, hey, this guy is stepping out of line. Like, he even said, like, I'm just basically here to mess with you because I feel like it in the middle of a day, in the middle of the week, just to be an asshole. Like, that was his, like, he basically said it without saying those words. So I think it comes down to the training. And to that point, in addition to that, we have one friend who's in particular extremely dark skinned. Like, he's like very, very dark. And he always says that he's afraid to come to our home because he's afraid of being pulled over. And we're like, what? Why?
Wow.
Like, we didn't. Yeah, like, and I'm like, what? Like, why? Like, our next door neighbor is a cop. Like, literally, our next door neighbor is a cop. Like, half of the people in our neighborhood are cops. Like, we know so many cops. Like, why are you afraid? But it's not because he's had a negative experience here in our area. It's because of the negative experiences that he's had in other places, and it just translates over. So it's like, it needs to be some kind of cohesive training across the country. Like, here is how the police officers are trained. No matter if you're in the city, the country, like, the training needs to be obviously tailored for which areas they're in and things like that. ATV training versus, if you need a drone. Like, out here, yeah, we have ATVs, we have all kinds of stuff because cops can't drive cars half the places around here. So they have to drive ATVs. They have to have the drones. But in the city, you don't need that. There needs to be some kind of cohesive training. There needs to be some kind of like blankets, like, here's what it is, and here's the guidelines across the board, and we need to stick to it. That's just, I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
So listen, did you want to go, Liv? You got something? Or I'm going to.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Amy that it definitely has training, but I think it starts in the home. And I think it starts with these parents, and I'm going to say it, mainly single mothers, are not teaching their children to respect figures of authority, whether it be teachers, whether it be your elders, whether it be police officers, firemen, whatever. They're not being taught to respect them. They're being taught to disrespect them and hate them. And so their first interaction with the police, they immediately, they're not respectful at all.
Yeah, it's part of their culture. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, they're taught to hate the police no matter what. And they could come across a police officer that is amazing, but they still act out. And even though the cop is not disrespecting that person, they're still going to act out and they're still going to disrespect them. And it needs to start in the home right there. And it needs to start with, they need to have respect for those police officers. And I can understand a police officer that's been in inner city Baltimore or Chicago or someplace like that, where it's constant that pretty much every interaction they have, they're being disrespected. I can see where they're a little jumpy.
Yeah.
And what happens if they finally get that transfer out of inner city and they go to a nicer area, I guarantee they're going to still be a little jumpy, even though they're in a better area.
And the same holds true for African Americans, because let's face it, most African Americans have had a cop who's treated them like shit. I mean, that's one of the things on the ride-alongs I can tell you I saw. And you treat white people differently than black people in some cases. And there's a reason why for that. And can we just be honest about it, is that when you have an equal amount of violent crime in the United States is owned by white people as black people, but black people make up 16% of the population and whites and Latinos make up over 71% of the population. Those numbers aren't indicative that you're not going to run into, in a high crime area, an African American who does not, unfortunately, responsible for some sort of crime. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. Yeah, you don't have to like it. You don't have to embrace me and want to take warm showers with me in the wee hours of the morning, but it's the truth. The other thing I'm going to say is where I hold these officers completely in contempt is that the moment that those cuffs came on, that person became a weaker and inferior soul who was no longer allowed to protect themselves. And if he was on drugs, okay, did he put a knife to a woman's abdomen? Yes. Was he resisting arrest? Yes. Was he fighting getting into the car? Yes. All those things are true. It doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
You got into the wrong job. If you believe that someone who is handcuffed deserves to have a knee into the back of their neck on pavement with handcuffs next to a muffler of a vehicle for 12 minutes, that person isn't going anywhere. Has anyone ever tried to run in handcuffs? I mean, you can't.
No.
You can't
You
even
have to be able to
talk.
swing your arms off to give you that counterbalance.
You can't even talk without your hands. How the fuck can you walk without your hands, run without your hands? Give me a break. The last thing I'm going to say about this, and then I'm just gonna move on to anyone who wants to chime in. Does everyone here think it's right or wrong to give BLM, knowing that it has some bad apples, 100% unequivocal support? Unequivocal support. You're going to give it to them 100% of the time. BLM, it's a good cause. It may have some bad things in it, maybe some of the leadership. Should you give that group, this is a yes or no, should you give them 100% of your support? Livia?
I would say no.
So Black lives don't matter?
Black lives do matter. Every life matters.
So should you support them?
That it's not 100%.
You're right. Yes or no? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes or no? You said no.
No.
Amy?
No.
Leroy?
No.
Mike?
No.
Okay, I'm no too. So then let me ask you this question. Should Blue Lives Matter have 100% of our support? Then why the fuck are we wearing the shirts? And why do we have the pins? And why do we have the flags? And why do we tote that? It's an interesting question. Okay.
It is an interesting question.
I'd like to just chime in. From my personal experience, and again, I feel like where we live is a different part of the country. It's not a typical metropolis. We don't live near big towns. Like, there's nothing here. Cops are our friends here. And I feel like at least the cops who are in our area, we have 4. I feel like we know pretty well, and I support them pretty unequivocally, unless there's something I find out that I'm not in agreement with, or they've broken the law, then I would obviously not support that. But the cops are trained to protect us. And it's not, I mean, yes, there's common sense built into this, but they need the proper training. They are here to protect us. They are here to keep our cities, our towns, our townships, the farmers. They're here to keep us all safe. So I am 100% able to say that I would support, the police officers, first responders more easily than to support BLM. I personally know many, many, many people who are in the service industry who have helped tremendously across the board. Yet I am not seeing what BLM has done for our nation to help anyone besides divide us and tear us apart.
I can answer Matt's question too.
It's not my question. It's not my question. Please. I don't think you meant it that way. Because
No.
that it's my question is that I believe in it. It's a question that needs to be asked.
Yeah.
Like if we can't answer that question, not one person here should support Blue Lives Matter, and you better not, because you better be able to answer the question like Amy just did. Leroy, go ahead.
I'll tell you why most people, and this is not adversarial, by the way. I didn't mean it to sound like that.
I know you didn't.
If
I just wanted to clarify.
If I did, I apologize.
You didn't.
But I think what happens a lot of times is when people hear Black Lives Matter, they think of a demographic. And when people hear Blue Lives, they don't think of a demographic. They think of people who are driving around in cars that all say to protect and serve on them. And there's a subtle difference there. I think a lot of times it's not unlike the discussions that you and I have had in the past when the occasional rape case comes out, and from the far left, we always get the same kind of punchlines to say, believe all women. Well, no, clearly that's not the case. I mean, there are the occasional cases where bad things are projected, these kind of false narratives. And so we have to be very careful about how we tread those waters. But in general, again, I think that when people hear Black Lives Matter, it's more of a demographic conversation versus Blue Lives Matter, which is the people that serve us.
Mike, 1 second. I'm going to I'm going to push it further. One is based on anecdotal evidence that is completely unprovable because there's no such thing as systemic racism in the United States anymore, period, end of story. The second one is absolutely essential because without support of the police, they lose their funding, they lose their ability to do their job, and ultimately it's antithetical to us. I unequivocally support the police because it behooves me to do so. Not because I have some sort of bootlicking fantasy. If I wanted to be a cop, I could still be a cop today. Liv can tell you how many times I have been offered by officers and told to go and be a cop. Every cop I meet is like, dude, you need to be a cop. You make a great cop. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't, because I'd shoot somebody because I don't have the patience. But it's just honest. That's the way I would. I guarantee my service revolver it would be 2 days before I broke leather. Some guy would come out there and go, you know what? Fuck you. But I'm like, fuck me. No, fuck you. I'm going to blow your fucking leg off. All right, Mike, go ahead.
For me, it's pretty easy. It's one group for Blue Lives Matter. You're getting behind a group of individuals that said, I am willing to put my life on the line for my community and to get into situations so that way my community doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So for me, that's very easy to get behind. Yes. Do bad things happen? Do they make mistakes? Absolutely. We're all human. It's going to happen.
Yep.
But largely, they're doing the right things. It's just no one actually puts that out there, and we don't get those kind of stories on the media. So that's not what they want you to hear. Right. And kind of like what Amy said for Black Lives Matter, show me one good thing that they've done since the inception of it. One good thing.
That's right.
Have they changed a community? Have they built any schools? Have they done anything to further their communities other than burn everything down, launder a bunch of money, and just cause havoc? They haven't.
And buy mansions.
And again, for me, it's one of those, I have a very hard time getting behind things like, you know what, this one race matters or this one thing matters. Because that's what, when you get Blue Lives Matter, it's literally every race, every ethnic background, it's everybody.
Yep.
But as soon as you get down to a singleton.
Yeah. Segue, then I'm going to give it right back to Leroy.
Yep.
And Olivia. Olivia hasn't said shit. I'll give it to Olivia, then Leroy.
Okay.
In Black Lives Matter, the actions of a few mean everything. And in Blue Lives Matter, the actions of a very large demographic don't dissuade them from doing their job. And let's be honest, that's the truth. A handful of people and a handful of cops, they denounce the entire organization. BLM has committed violence and violent atrocities, and still those cops are out there putting a line out there, protecting those people and ensuring that they're okay. And they have the right to protest peacefully, and a bunch of thugs come in and take it over. And there's the difference. Olivia and then Leroy. And let's make this our final minute because my voice is done. I can't go anymore. Liv?
Well, police go out there every day and put their lives on the line for everyone. And that deserves our support. And like Mike said, yeah, there's going to be some bad apples out there. And there's, but not everyone's perfect. I mean, our children I love our children, but there are times when they are pretty dumb and make some dumb decisions, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to support them,
Yeah.
But as far as Black Lives Matter, the only thing, and I wouldn't call it important, but the only thing of anything they've done is they've made a new national holiday. Other than that, anytime I think of BLM, it's bad. I think of riots. I think of the bad things that have happened in this country in their name. And it's also the people that they get behind to support. Really shows the true colors of what they are as a group. Yeah. They supported George Floyd. They supported the brown kid, the stand up, hands up, don't shoot guy.
Michael Brown, the one that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. They support all of these martyrs. And it's the people they choose to get behind, and it gives them a horrible, bad name. And I know there's some people in the organization that have the best interests at heart and want to do the best thing they can do. And they're completely against the bad side of it. But unfortunately, there's so few of them that they don't have a big enough voice to let it be heard.
It's very interesting you said that's a very good point. The left chooses some very auspicious bedfellows to admire and emulate Marxist Leninism, Che Guevara, Ted Bundy. The left have been embracing Ted Bundy, Hamas, Osama bin Laden. What the fuck? I mean, the left do have some very strange bedfellows, don't they? Mm-hmm. I just put that, Olivia, it's a very good point. I just put that together and I was sitting here going, holy shit. The litany and the list is incredible. We can even go to Strom Thurmond, George Wallace. I mean, we can go to the Ku Klux Klan members that Biden idolized. You can go to Louis Farrakhan, who's an anti-Semite. I mean, there's pedophiles that they've endorsed and supported. Nabokov is one of them. You can go and look at Common, the rapper, talked about killing cops. You can even talk about the one lady who actually shot the cop, who they invited to the White House. They invited BLM to the White House. It's interesting how some of the worst people in society who've done the most atrocious things, Democrats emulate. Leroy, you get to go, then Michael, and then Amy. And then we're calling it a night.
Sounds good. Something that Mike said, just it sparked something. And Matt's going to tell you this too. Whenever you're hiring anybody, Matt, feel free to chime in here because you know what I'm going to say. Whenever you're hiring anybody, that talent pool, it doesn't matter if it's a local, if it's a retail store, if it's a Starbucks or whatever, it doesn't matter. When you hire people, they're always from the immediate community. You're never going to find people that are going to travel 80, 90 miles, right, to go to a job that they do every day. So all of these policemen, these are your neighbors, folks. These are all, and they may be from a suburb, right? But largely, they're not going to be from more than 25, 30 miles out. So all of these narratives that you hear from the left of how they're trying to dehumanize the police force. And what Matt was talking about, it's interesting that the bedfellows that they do choose to keep, the Karl Marx of the world. But in the meantime, the people that are out there protecting our communities are our neighbors. They these are, and I was always wondered about this too. Like, what if you're the neighbor of a cop? Do you think the same thing about that person that somebody who lives 10 miles away does? That just so happens to have caught a glimpse of the news that day to say, "Oh, well, that guy's a piece of," because he's a because he's a cop. That's all the narrative has to be, right? Is NBC is going to run a story about a crooked cop, and so somehow that means that it applies to all cops. But what do you think that neighbor who has that cop neighbor, right? The guy that lives to the right of him, that goes in every day at 5 a.m., puts his badge on, comes home, dragging ass every day. Do you think that guy has the same opinion? Remember that, folks. These people live amongst us. They're our friends.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, John is on YouTube. John, I've already made that argument that Semites are not inclusive and exclusive to just Jews. I'm one of the only people who have said that in the conservative voices on the net. So anti-Semitic, in order to say that, has been a trope that's been assigned to Jews alone. It's a nomadic people. It's a tribal people. And Semites is more of a geographical location than an actual race or ethnicity of people. So I've already said that. Second, you say Farrakhan is not an anti-Semite. I couldn't agree with your second comment more. I couldn't disagree with your first comment more. So your comments, obviously we know where you stand. You're not a fan of Jews. You probably come from the Groypers, and that's fine. And you followed us because of that. That's great. Good to have you here. We don't care that people take issue with other races of people. It happens. It depends upon your life experiences, and some people can get stereotypes and stigmas, and we can talk about that. But to sit here and say that, to trivialize anti-Semitic tropes and saying that anti-Semitism doesn't exist simply because the moniker is wrong, that's as bad as people calling J6ers and anyone who supports Trump treasonous, because none of those people have been charged for treason. Words matter. So to me, we know what anti-Semite means. Also, people don't use the word troll correctly. And troll is a person essentially who is making non-factual statements to garner a reaction, kind of like gaslighting. But people think a troll is anyone who comes on a page that's not theirs. Anyone who has an opinion that's different. Oh, you're just trolling. And I always am bothered by that, because that's not what trolling means. That's what it's turned into. If you also look at prejudice never used to mean racism. That wasn't what it was defined as. So people have taken a word for ignorance and stupidity and judgment and turned it into racial issue. I understand anti-Semitic has kind of been adopted for Jews alone. I understand that if you're anti-Muslim, you're an anti-Semite too. Farrakhan made several comments. If you would like, I'll read them to you, but you already know them. For you, just because you agree with them, believe that they're not anti-Semitic, because here is what truly is racist, or if you're going to hate someone based on homophobia or xenophobia or whatever, the words that the left use to describe anyone they disagree with. But there is these human qualities in people, and it's real. Racism is a real thing. Nobody's saying it's not. Just because you agree with them doesn't mean they're not. When you marginalize an entire group of people, that's exactly what it means. When you disparage or degrade an entire group of people because the actions of a few, that's the problem. So it's all about painting a broad brush. Just like any Groyper doesn't want to be called an anti-Semite or a Jew hater or a white nationalist, or maybe you do, maybe you embrace that. That's one thing I've learned about Groypers is no matter what I say, it's the opposite. Because you guys, I embrace that. Actually, I love that. I love being called a Nazi. It's fantastic. It's, oh, well, okay, great. But my point being is to assume that there is not a hatred for Jews in the world not only makes you extremely naive, it makes you wrong, more importantly. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Mike and then Olivia. Or is it Mike and Amy?
I think for me, it's one of those, stop listening to the media. You're going to get, whether it's Fox, CNN, whatever, you're going to get pushed whatever BS narrative they want. So think, allow things to play out, but come to your own conclusions. Stop just going off of what you see on Twitter or whatever MSNBC says that, oh, it's a white cop, so obviously this is a hate crime. He deserves 40 years in prison. Like, let the facts play out. And then if someone screwed up, then guess what? They deserve that consequence.
Yeah.
But let's allow people or allow the situations to play out so we get all the facts. Just like the terrorist attack that we had on the northern border. Obviously it wasn't, but people jumped to conclusions so quickly because they want to get their narratives out and they want to get their ratings up. So stop listening to the media, get your own facts, and realize that everybody is human. We're all going to make mistakes, but more likely than not, we're all going for the common good. So with your communities, be involved, go towards a common goal. And if there's something wrong in your community, then you guys need to be the one to fix it, because more government's not going to fix it. More or less police is not going to fix it. It's probably going to hurt it if you have less police. But you have to be the ones from the grassroots to change these things, not anybody else. So if you have problems, you need to fix it yourselves and stop looking for someone else to do it for you.
Fantastic point. And then we're going to the last one. I still have to address John. John, thanks for your contribution. I don't want you to feel I was insulting you if you're a groiper. I think we've embraced them more than just about any other show. I try to embrace everybody. I don't care who you are, where you're from, as long as you're not disparaging people at a level that I believe is based upon race, color, origin, or, disposition. I don't believe in that shit. I think that's stupid. It's a myopic way of thinking. It's always interesting to me when people say, hey, there were some lending practices that unfortunately influenced and harmed black people for generations, where they couldn't get affordable housing and things. That's because Jews took advantage of them in lending. You're right. Or they feel that Hollywood has been has subjugated black people to negative stereotypes, and you're right. But you know what's different is I never hear anyone say, hey, those Catholics made housing and development really tough for black people. Hey, those Irish stagehands really made it hard for black unions to get jobs. Hey, guess what? Those split-tail women who pee when they sit down make it really tough for CEOs to get jobs nowadays if they're not black and a woman. It always amazes me how when Jews do things that are not necessarily above board, it's all Jews who pay the price, not just people who are greedy or who have no fucking morals.
Right.
Or, make stupid mistakes. You guys always point to what is their ethnicity and religion, which there is a level of multiculturalism in the Jewish religion and ethnicity, along with Muslims too, that they can't separate those two because they are synonymous. It always amazes me is that you go to the Jew. You never go that this is just a bad fucking person. This brings the whole conversation back to BLM. There were parts of BLM, there were 400 and some odd events that had no riots, that were peaceful. And whether we agree with what they were or not, who gives a fuck? They have a right to do that. I'm not going to say all BLM was the devil. Just like I'm not going to say all cops are the devil. You shouldn't say all Jews are the devil. And if you do that, you're a myopic thinker. And I can't believe that about you. And I'm not saying you are. I'm just making a counterpoint. Who was last? And then I got to go.
I think
Was it
Olivia.
Leroy?
Or
Was
no,
it Amy?
yeah.
Did you get to go, Libby?
No, I just have one comment. That's
All right. Go ahead, Ames.
Okay, so I have a couple of things to kind of touch on really quickly. When it comes to Derek Chauvin, I really am against his sentencing. I think he is guilty of certain things. I 100% believe that he should have handled things differently. I don't think he deserves 40 years. Obviously, he's supposed to be mostly in solitary confinement from my understanding. Clearly, that's not the case, or the guards are not doing their jobs.
Which is
With that
crazy.
said, right. And
I
with
mean, do you
that
know how
said,
bad that is on a person in solitary confinement? My
it's
God.
horrible. And to my next point, if you don't know anyone in prison, and I don't personally, but volunteer or get involved with programs, because people in prison are not all horrible, hardened criminals. A lot of them are really good people who have made horrible mistakes, and they've been made the example of, and now they've lost their freedoms for one mishap or one truly freak accident, and they're in prison for the rest of their life, or the
I
majority
heard
of
they
their
were
life.
all Jewish. Is that true? They were all Jewish
I don't
in
think
prison?
so, but
Oh,
I don't think
okay.
so. That's a
All
different
right.
country. So you know, I'm not here to like lay blame on anyone. I am a firm believer that there are innocent people in prison for sure. There are people who have been made examples of, and then there are people who get no time, the system has failed the innocence, and people are walking this earth that should be behind bars. I think the system fails a lot both ways. To my next point about police officers, I don't know if I should mention his name on here. He's a local guy. He's one of the higher ups local guys, but there is a cop. And if you
I
think it's okay,
wouldn't. I
okay,
wouldn't.
I'm like, but he truly, he literally saved my life. I would be dead. I'm 100% sure of that if it wasn't for him. And and skin color shouldn't matter, but like, he's a black guy. I'm a white woman. Like, he could have just let me, you know what I mean? Like, he truly saved my life. He went out of his way to, on his time off from working, to check on me, make sure that I was safe, make sure I was taking the steps that I needed to take, including his wife, who was like, no, you're not allowed to. We're going to get you help. We're going to get you out of this situation. We're going to make sure you're alive. You can't die. There's so many good cops. There are so many good cops like this man who literally truly saved my life. And so maybe that's why I'm like, oh, I love the cops here. Yes, there's bad ones everywhere, but the majority of cops here in our area, I freaking love. I'm friends with a lot of them. Our next door neighbor, Leroy, is a cop. Love them, love their family, like amazing family, amazing people. So I don't think it has to be like always a black and white thing. You know, this guy saved my life. His wife is also white too, but I don't know if that matters. But like, you know, like they like scooped me up and saved me in the most dire of straits. To this day, where we check in, they make sure like everything's cool. They know what I'm going through. And my last quick point is, I think after tomorrow, I will be able to share a little bit more of my story. So I think I will be back on social media, not right away. I'm going to plan some things out and kind of share a little bit. I have to just double check, but I think after tomorrow, I'm safe to kind of share a little bit. Not the
I'm
whole
excited
thing,
to
but
hear.
like, yeah.
I think
So,
everybody deserves to hear the story and wants to know.
Yeah.
I know I want to hear it.
Yeah, I think everybody does.
Too.
Mike doesn't care, but everyone else cares. Olivia, take your question, and then Mike, you're going to tell them about tomorrow morning. Go ahead.
Just a quick thing is, we need to stop judging people in the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's where most of this comes from, is people see one video or hear one thing from a friend, and immediately they get their own judgment, and then they pass that judgment on to other people, and then it just spreads like wildfire. And to be honest, I wish stuff like that they would not, they wouldn't put it on the news. They would block out their faces. They wouldn't say their names, and they would just say this happened, but they don't go into details.
Yeah,
and then that way they
do you
can
know
get
the hockey player, when they announced his arrest, they said an unnamed person, even though everyone knows who it was.
Mm-hmm.
It is not in the paper. England will not print that shit. They still put a black bag over people's heads, and you go, that's inhumane. No, it's not. It's to protect their identity.
It
It's
is.
actually a good thing.
I mean, I know I'm guilty of it, but I mean, like, Casey Anthony, and I know that whole is a whole big thing, but I
She's
don't know
hot.
anything. But I mean,
Best babysitter
she
ever.
was
It's
found
a joke.
not guilty, but her life is ruined because everyone thinks that she murdered her baby, which, to be honest, I think she probably did.
Yeah,
But
I think that's a really bad example. You should have said somebody who's innocent, like OJ. I mean, come on,
yeah,
Liv.
totally.
Clearly.
So, clearly, I should have said that.
It's definitely OJ.
But yeah, I mean, I just, unfortunately, with social media and everyone having a phone, it's not going to happen. But
yeah, our time is up. Michael, tell them about tomorrow. Hey, honey, great points. Sincerely, Mike, tell them about tomorrow morning.
Say we're going to be on at 8 o'clock tomorrow, and actually some of this works out pretty well because we're likely to be talking about some standards and whether
Should
you
bitches
think
be in the department, yo?
yeah, and this one is going to Izzo and some of his comments on women in police, and I think we're going to expand it a lot further than that to just general standards for the military and further than that. So I think what we talked about tonight is going to translate into the morning pretty well.
Yeah, we got to get Izzo on this show because I really enjoy his stuff. The problem is you think I have a loose mouth? Holy crap! Leroy, did you have anything else, buddy? You're being so patient down there. No.
I was going to say,
was listening to everyone's points, and I more than anything now I really want to hear Amy's background story on that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one that is going to be powerful, where we just kind of shut up and listen. And that's.
Well, I'm going to do recorded. I'm going to do a recording because I've been off social media since literally my last post was Easter. And so I've not even been on social media. So I'm going to do my own recording for my channel that I haven't been on or anything, just to kind of address the elephant in the room. But I can do like a separate thing if you guys are interested. I don't know if it's going to be interesting or not. Like, it's very like, I have to also ride this wave too. Like, I still have to be careful, but I think after
maybe
tomorrow.
We should do an interview. Maybe we should do an interview where you're sitting down in the room and you and I have a conversation. Cause I think
like the one, like
60 minutes style.
Yeah, I could. Well, yeah. And I'll, whenever you're not really following up to standards, I'll come over and slap you so you can really like dive into the past. And
I think that's good. I'm in.
Good. See, folks, you got everybody. There's no everybody. Everybody gets hit. I don't care because it's called humor, and it's a great piece of therapy. It helps you get through stuff if you can just laugh.
Head on over to YouTube. 816 people. Come on. You need 184. Yeah, 184.
Listen, I want to thank
Watching
everybody for
her
a great
struggle
show.
to do math was awesome.
Head on over to the Dumb Show. Save 10% by using Dumb10. We are shipping for the holidays. Folks, there's some great stuff over there. We've got some hoodies over there. If there's anything on the show that you're like, oh, I want it in a long sleeve, I want it in a short sleeve, I want it in a hoodie, I want it in, just let me know. I can add anything you want to the store. Christmas ornaments are over there ready to go. Remember, we give 10% at the end of the year to Travis Manion Foundation. We're going to give well over $2,700 this year to Travis Manion. That's a lot. So please go over there and let's give them $3,000. I think it would be a great thing to do. So go and help out. thedumbshow.com. Anything else? Mike, people want to know how you did on your games real quick.
So I think we'll talk about it a little bit more on the morning show, but the games were pretty well. We end up winning out. Caveat to that is we were probably in a little bit low division for the people that we had there. But it was still fun. Didn't get the hits that I wanted, but it was still a good time.
What did you win?
We put a lot of pucks in. It was fun.
Did you win anything?
I mean, we won our division, so
that's awesome.
Good for you. I mean, even Canadian teams can't even fucking do that. So congratulations. Anybody else?
Okay, so the one thing that did piss me off about that tournament, the Paralympic national team played in a lower division so they could win because they were tired of losing to the U.S. national team. Even though that team was spread loaded on multiple teams, the Canadian team played together and played lower so they could win. So fuck the Canadians.
Yeah. Like, do you play at Ion? Where do you do you play at Ion, or are you in Ashburn? Where do you play? Or
We're
are you
in Rockville.
Rockville. Jesus, that's a long drive.
Yeah.
Hey, don't
we have a
blaspheme.
tournament in Rockville in May.
Oh, I know. Sorry, it's just a long drive. I wouldn't drive that far. I just thought, like, why don't they have I don't know. I know nothing about
enough
this.
cripples close enough. We
So I was
gotta
going
go.
to say,
We
some
gotta
people
go
got to lose
congregate
some
somewhere.
I
legs.
can break some knees. That's
We
just
gotta, yeah, people got to lose some legs. Leroy, I'm going to say one thing. I know what you're going through. I've burnt that candle. You look tired. Get rest. You're not getting
Aw.
Yeah,
enough.
I'm working on it. Thank you.
I know you are, but you need to get your sleep because you need to be sharp, and the decisions you make affect people's lives. Get your rest.
Yeah.
I know. I'm not dumb. I get it. I know what you're doing. I know what your watches look like. They fucking suck right now, but you need to get your rest. Okay?
Yeah. We'll get there.
Night.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good night,
though.
everybody. We love you.
Love you guys.
Thanks
Good
for
night,
watching.
everyone.
You guys.
God,
Yeah.
See you.
Thanks.
my
Love you
voice.
guys.
I got 12 hours to recover. Good night.
Yeah. Good night.
See ya.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
You know, some people just can't shut the fuck up. They're talking about Taylor Swift, and they're like, you support a commie fascist, and you're giving up your liberty because she's a voice piece for the communists. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, dude, it's a fucking sweater.
Yeah, whatever.
My daughter likes Taylor Swift. What the fuck do you want from me?
One thing for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Our water heater went out.
Oh shit. Fuck
Parrish, that's just how this time's been going for us. Parrish was supposed to give me time